What's your dream company and why? eBay, would you want to go?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet, but I feel like it'd be really nice working for um, Netflix, designing like the user interface where it shows you like the recommended movies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Sejal? Have you thought about it?
I was just typing it in the chat box. So I just say it. So I would really love to work for Google one day because one, because of the culture that they have is what I've heard about, and two, the large scale impact that you get to have on people's lives via their products.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone
Awesome.
else? If you want to say, comment in the chat, that's also fine. Otherwise, we'll start in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be really happy to work at any of them. I mean, I just really want like a job, And I feel like they're all great like places to work at.
Yeah.
And I've been applying to like a bunch of internships, and so I'm just like, yeah, it'd be cool to have a job.
Feel you. Yes.
But of all of them, Google is probably my favorite, just because I think they have the greatest variety of like technological innovation that like they're participating in. That's interesting to me.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm particularly interested in Facebook because of their design team and what I've heard about, especially their mentorship culture. So that's what I'm looking forward to a lot. Okay, let's start. Welcome everyone. Hope you all had a good first week of school. We're so excited to be having everyone here with us today to learn about how you can actually improve your chances of landing a job at FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. That's what the abbreviation stands for. Let me start off with a round of introductions. My name is Fatima Rafiki. I'm a second year graduate student pursuing a human computer interaction degree at IU. And apart from that, I was a UX design intern at Juniper Networks previously. And I am the web design intern here at IU Center of Women for Excellence. Over to you, Paramita.
Hi everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Paromita. I'm also a second year graduate student in the HCI program. I aspire to be a UX designer after I graduate in May. And I'm leading the web design team at CWIT here, and so excited to see you all. And Mansi, really excited to hear from you today. Eve, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm also an intern here at the web design team at CWIT. I'm currently a sophomore in the undergraduate school, majoring in comprehensive design and digital interactive multimedia, and as well as minoring in marketing. And I also wanted to pursue a career in UX design in the future.
Thank you, Paramita and eBay, for your introduction. So, as part of CWIT, our mission is to empower women to be leaders in technical fields and to fully leverage technology to attain academic and professional excellence. Our team holds a variety of events and workshop and everything design and technology related. You're welcome to join our community by signing up for our mailing list. We'll be giving the email on the chat, and the link will be in the chat. And without further ado, let's begin. Over to you, Mansi.
Yeah. Hey everyone. So I'm good morning, good afternoon. It's morning in Seattle, so that's why I'm saying good morning. I know you guys are on the East Coast, so yeah. Let me share my screen and then we can kick off. 1 second. All right. Yep. Tell me if you can see my screen. Fatima,
Yes.
can you?
Yes, we can see your screen.
It went to the second page. I don't know why. So, hi everyone. My name is Mansi Tripathi. I'm currently working as a technical program manager at Facebook. I've been in company for about 9 months now, and I had to join during this whole pandemic period and learned really fast. And now I'm leading some really company critical projects. I don't know what my manager is thinking there, but yeah, it's been a crazy journey working in Facebook so far, and I am happy to chat about that. But like, focus for today is going to be more on the side what my experience has been with the interviewing with FANG, and also what tips and tricks that you can leverage while you are applying to these companies. A little bit more background: I completed my master's in computer science from University of Southern California in May last year. Did not get a convocation, unfortunately. Before that, I was working in Microsoft as a software engineer, and I also have a bachelor degree in computer science and engineering. So that's like my background in career path so far. And let's see, what can you do? What did I do during my college days? So like, if you are starting out, you still have time left in your college. This is what I suggest people doing. You need to divide your time into sections, and this is very, very important that you do it early on, because it gives you time to focus not only on your academic skills but also build the skills needed for clearing all these interview rounds. What does that mean? Not just learning what academics or the assignments that you get or the classes that you take is never enough for all the interviews that you're going to go through. You need to develop some key skills that define and creates a brand which is very, very unique for you. So that's why I said, like, you're going to spend like most of your time, like you should spend 50% of your time on your academics, but then you also need to spend 20% of time on skill development. It could mean different things for different people. For me, when I was aiming for software engineering, that meant like working on coding problems, improving my technical design, system design knowledge, and how to build architectures and stuff. But when I was aiming for technical program manager roles, it meant more understanding how to collaborate, how to run large programs, what are the key skills that I need to ensure XFN, which is a very key term you'll see in IT industry being used. How cross-functional, it basically stands for cross-functional partners. So how do you collaborate with these cross-functional partners? That's what I focused on when I was aiming for TPM role. Apart from that, you also need to be part of like extracurricular activities like Paramita, Yibi, and Fatima are doing here. Like, being part of these organizations in college give you some key skills around communication, collaboration, how to work as a team, how to coordinate when you have different timetables and projects that you're working from apart from this project that you're together. Those skills you learn as part of an extracurricular by being part of any extracurricular event. And then finally, you cannot like go without having some social life in your college life. Like, that's definitely important. I would never say like don't socialize, don't go out with your friends. Like, you definitely need to do that, because that's what keeps you sane throughout your college journey, and that's what kept me sane through my bachelor's, my master's, and like, you definitely need to do that. Another thing that I made sure that I was doing was when I started out looking at various career paths out there, one thing that was never told to me, and I thought like, I would like I would really want someone to go back in time and tell me, go and explore more what other paths are available. Like when I was doing my bachelor's degree, only thing that I knew was like I could only be a software engineer. There's no other role. But then when I went and started working in Microsoft, I realized, oh, there's this role called program manager, which suits me much better than a software engineering role. So one thing that I suggest, if you're early on in your career, you don't know what you want to do, you know this is an area, but you don't really know what role suits you better, I would suggest reaching out to people in your circle who are working for these companies and understand what different roles these companies actually have. Like when I joined Facebook, I realized there were more than 4 or 5 engineering specific roles, and they all had a different meaning and responsibilities. So maybe by exploring, you might be able to find your passion. And like I did, once I was in Microsoft, I realized, oh, PM is the way I want to go, and that's when I kicked off my path towards becoming a TPM. Never ever stop learning. This is one thing that I see very cognizant across all companies and FANG, or like all these organizations. If you show them that you are very keen to learn, they want to hire people with that passion. Like if you are if you're going to go to them and say, hey, I know a lot of stuff, I'm not interested in learning anything new, but I have this skill set, can you hire me? They're going to say no. All these FANG companies look for individuals who are actually looking to grow and learn more through the work that they do in that company or that role. So always be keen to learn anything new from anywhere. Network during your college days. The friends, the circle, the network that you create is one of the strongest network that you're going to hold on to for years. And it might be really helpful in situations when you're like, oh, I want a career change, let's reach out to my network and see if there are any openings. Like it's that simple if you build a really strong network during your college days. And then again, focus on projects, because projects are one of the ways you showcase your brand, your skill to the company. So this is where yeah, sorry.
Sorry for interruption, Mansi. Actually, I don't know if you're flipping the slides because I can just see the higher education.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not flipping yet. This is
Okay.
for the first slide. I'm going to go next in the next one. So yeah.
Okay. So
No worries. So projects are focused, like for design, I know you need to build your own mock-ups, you need to do whiteboarding, and you have to come up with a portfolio. For a PM, projects would mean leading college, any projects that you are part of in college, and showcasing your leadership skills there. And for a software engineer, it would mean coding up some whatever area interests you, whether it's gaming, whether it's artificial intelligence. Focus on those areas and build projects that actually interest you, not what the company is looking for. And that's all I had for this slide. Let's move on to the next one. How can you get a job at FANG? So these are few approaches that I've listed out there. Sometimes you can get lucky, you apply to all these companies, you get hired as an intern, you go through the internship process and you convert as a full-time. But that's not the only route. There are other ways to get full-time offers as well. Another way is, I'm pretty sure you guys have job fairs in your universities. I don't know how that's happening virtually, but like job fairs is one good place for you to connect with recruiters, show your brand, and use that connection to get interviews set up. So like what I have seen my friends used to do would like go to these job fairs with their resumes, and they would prepare a 1 or 2 minute elevator pitch to perfection, and to the point that it coincides with what the company is looking for. And always I've seen that elevator pitch would get them callbacks. So one way for like you could get a job in FANG is like perfecting your elevator pitch and going to all of these job fairs that happen on your campus. Another way is off-campus applications, which is pretty common, and I believe every one of you is doing. You go to LinkedIn, you go to these companies' site and just apply to whatever role that suits you. And sometimes I think one thing very important for off-campus application is that you need to make sure you're applying to a lot of places, like as many places as you want. And I'll tell you why. So I think the more you apply, the more your resume floats in the recruiter circle, like there's a very high possibility you might not have applied to a company, but you get a call back just because you applied to all these different portals and your resume was floating. And this is a very real story because it happened to me. When I was applying for internships in about a year or two back, I applied to over 200 roles, and I would get rejections and like all of that stuff was happening. But then suddenly one day I get a mail from Facebook recruiter saying, hey, we saw your resume somewhere, and then would you be interested in interviewing for this role? And I was pretty surprised because I did not apply for TPM roles because I was not aware that Facebook had TPM roles at that time. I was applying in Microsoft and Google. And then and within 2 weeks I had my interviews, and in following 2 weeks I got an offer. So like apply as much as you can if off campus is the route that you're going to take. LinkedIn, company website, I kind of covered in the off campus, LinkedIn as well. Referrals. That's a very, very important way to get a job again. So if you know anyone in your circle that is working in any of these big tech companies, definitely reach out to them to refer you, because it's an advantage for them as well as for you. So like if you get hired, they're going to get paid for getting a referral that converted to a hire, and you'll get an offer. So it's a win-win situation on both ends. So definitely don't be hesitant on reaching out to all of these people. Like at least the FANG companies follow this concept of rewarding the referrer. So definitely reach out to all the people that you know in your LinkedIn network, in your school network, or like outside of network, like wherever you can find, and ask for referrals, because that's one of the ways where you bypass the resume line. So usually how recruiters work is like you get these hundreds of submissions every day, and they're going to go look at it one by one. But whereas for referrals, there's a separate line that goes into it and a separate recruiter looking at it with more detail. So you have a better chance of getting a call back from a referral than a off-campus application. And finally, networking. I can go on and on and on talking just about networking and how important it is. But the key thing that I want to point out, like through all those conversations, is that you need to put in an effort to build the network. I started out as an introvert, and as an introvert, building networks can sometimes be really, really hard. I understand that, but you need to find the right way of networking. Like I found my way of networking was to go to all these conferences and like being part of these on-campus events and networking with people as part of those event organization, or in the networking sessions in the conferences. Like that's where I realized I was able to network better than on an online platform. So like find out what works for you and make sure that you're following up on that. But definitely never ever skip networking. Like you can skip not applying on company website, or like skip LinkedIn application or on campus, but never ever skip networking, because the networking does not only work for you right now, it's also going to work for you later in life when you are like, oh, I am looking for a job change. The same network will help you get a new job. So I talked about approaches. What do I need to study? What do FANG really care about? Like, how do I prepare for these interviews if I get a call? So this is like a small snapshot of what I know and I've heard from my friends these companies focus on. So I'm just going to run through it really quickly. Feel free to take a screenshot or whatever if you want. For product manager and designer, product sense and leadership is something which is common for both the roles. System design and program management is a bit specific for program management roles, and whiteboarding and app critique is specific for design. For software engineering, we always start with basics, which is data structure algorithm. And then if you have time, do invest in understanding what different coding patterns are being followed in these big companies. Because if you are able to showcase that, that's a really good tech skill which companies are looking for in new hires, because they do not, now you already have that skill which other new hires would have to invest in. And then if you're looking for data science, you need to have some AI ML background there. For practice, focus for product management or program management roles, focus on mock interviews, because most of the interviews are not going to be very tech, but they are looking at the way you are thinking. And to be able to think and explain that well is a very, very key to a product manager interview. So do as many mock interviews as you can. For software developer, Lead Code, and I know there are many more other coding websites, like Code almost every day. You need to spend at least an hour a day focusing on coding skills. And then for design, you need to focus on having a good portfolio and and being able to handle whiteboarding challenges that you'll get in these interviews. So these are some skill sets that you need to focus on based on your role. To get a job in FANG and clear the interviews. Moving on, soft skills. A lot of time people ignore this, like why do I need to be part of, why do we need soft skills? I'm a software engineer. I don't really need to have these, like there are these misconceptions, and I've seen a lot of people with really, really great technical knowledge, but not that great soft skills, not being able to clear interviews. And the reason behind that is because these days companies are not just looking for people who can code, but they also want people who can collaborate. And by collaboration, you need to have some soft skills. For collaboration, you need to be able to communicate well. You need to be able to talk and think aloud what is in your mind, and be confident about it. Like if you're not confident in what you're thinking and communicating, that is considered a red flag by a lot of these companies. Have a confident body posture. It doesn't apply these days, but like if you went on an on-campus interview, have a confident body posture. Even like when you're in an interview, have straight face, be confident in your posture. And then whenever you're in these interviews, try to drive the conversation. Don't rely on the interviewer to drive the conversation. When you are the one driving conversation, it shows them a key skill called leadership, which is another thing that these companies are looking for. Definitely prepare for HR questions. For example, they're going to ask you, and this is something that was asked to me in one of the interviews as well. So like, so I was asked, if you are having some issues or conflicts with one of your team members, how do you resolve it? So like in those HR questions, they're actually trying to see how do you collaborate with your team members in cases of conflict. And that's a very key skill when you're going to work in such a big company. There is definitely going to be conflicts. There are definitely going to be different viewpoints. How do you resolve that is very key skill for these companies. So do invest in soft skills. Moving on to the process of recruitment, I think there's this very standard process which is followed everywhere. You send a resume is selected, and then you go to these interview rounds. They can range from 2 to 3 or 4 or 5, depending on company to company, role to role. But there are certain things that I see, there is a pattern that I see in all of these interviews that you go to. 1 or 2 interviews are going to be role specific. So like if you're applying for a TPM role, you're definitely going to have interview where they're going to focus just on product sense. Like, how do you think about product when we give you a problem? Like, are you thinking from the customer perspective and all of that? For design, it would be like whiteboarding sessions where they'll throw a question at you and they'll ask you to design based on that. Another pattern, or like another set of interview rounds that you might go through is focused on your personality and collaboration. It ties back really well to the soft skills section that I was talking about. These rounds are more focused on asking you questions around conflicts within team. How do you collaborate across teams, across organizations, across roles? Like as a TPM, how do I work with a designer? How do I work with a software engineer? How do I work with a product manager? How do I work with an engineering manager, director? Like those, how do you collaborate with these different roles in different organizations? So sometimes I work in infra, sometimes I have to work with people in product teams. How do I do the communication there? How do I do collaboration there? Is my way of thinking and personality aligns with the way the company thinks about it? Like all those things are looked at in this round. And then finally, leadership skill round, which is very, very focused on understanding whether you can handle ambiguous situations that are thrown at you. And then it could be anything, specifically if you're working in companies that have startup culture like Facebook and Google. Sometimes suddenly a big SEV might happen and you need to go in full drive mode and like stop everything and focus on that issue that is at your hand. So at that time, we need good leaders in all these roles to ensure the work is being looked at and is completed on time. So those are the three key skills that you're going to, three types of rounds that you're going to go through when you're going through the recruitment process for FANG. Finally, the thing that I want to talk about is how can I stand out? Like this is one thing that is going to help you fast track your process in recruitment. There are two things that I think are really key for you to stand out. One, resume. Treat your resume as your marketing document. Like you need to put only those things that really, really resonate with you, that shows your brand, and that shows to the company that you're applying to, okay, my brand does align with your brand. So resume is very, very key to standing out in all these roles and all the applications that you're going to that are going to come for that one particular role. Another thing that I feel is very important for you to stand out is during the interview process. I'm pretty sure at some point of time you're going to get asked this question: why do you want to join this company? What's the motive behind it? Be really clear on what your expectation is out of the job and how does that expectation or your goal aligns with the company. So this is a question that you'll have to prepare a little bit beforehand. Each company has its own goal, mission, track, like they have their different fancy names to call it, but basically they have their own mantra for each of these FANG companies, and you need to find a way what you want to do in life and what they want the company to do. How does that align and how do you make a good answer out of it? If you have a really great answer for that, that's like a really good way for you to stand out, because that shows like you're not just here to get a job. It's actually joining this company is going to get you further in your career goal. And that's what they're looking for here. So those are the two things that you can look for, work on to stand out while you're applying to these companies. That's all I had. I am ready to answer questions. Do you want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, I think Mansi, you can stop sharing and then we can go on to the questions.
Awesome.
First of all, thanks a lot. So much insightful information from resume, career tips, networking, and your own journey. It was really insightful to know about it. And we're opening the stage for question and answers. So if anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat or come off mute, whatever you're comfortable with. And now is your time. So okay, let me start off with some of the questions we received from the Zoom registrations, and then meanwhile everyone can think of questions. So the first one is so you talked about the projects which are very important when you're applying for jobs. So what were your projects that you had done previously that gave you an advantage while interviewing or applying for jobs?
That's a good question, and I believe is very important for recruiting process. So for me, when I was applying for software engineering roles, I focused on doing projects that were unique. I was working on sensors, I was working on embedded systems, but that also tied into actual impact. So I had a project where we were using sensors to capture information and about location and like getting body temperature and all of that stuff, like a wearable device that can be used by children, and parents can track them in case of emergencies if they go beyond a boundary that is being set by the parent. So like it's a good way to keep track of your children, especially if you're living in an area where there is a high expectancy of kidnapping. So that was one project that I worked on, and my focus was always on the impact and the goal, like the impact that I'm trying to create from this project. So like build projects that align with your goals, also have some good impact. So that's one project that I worked on. Another project that I worked on during that time was more on the research side, because I was also interested in wireless sensor networks. So I was doing some research work on that side. It did not really tie back directly into real world impact, but it did give me a lot of insight into what wireless sensor has to offer to this world. So explore research as well. Like just don't go on like one path of impact. You need to explore, like I said in the slide. And then when I was applying for TPM roles, I focused on taking on the leadership role in all my school projects. So like when I was in USC doing a master's in computer science, we had this team project where we were building a game for a virtual reality based game. I was leading the whole project. Like I would decide what needs to get done, who's going to get done, make sure it's getting done, all the key roles that are needed to do there. Another thing that I focused on when I was working in Microsoft, because like within 6 months, I realized software engineering is not for me. I'm more of a PM person. I started taking on PM roles within the team. So I said, I'm going to be the Scrum Master for this team to my manager. And he was like, sure, because no engineer was ready to do that. So it was a clear and easy path for me. And then when I was a Scrum Master, I learned so many cross-functional communication skills, collaboration skills. I was working really closely to my program manager to learn how the things are done. And then also I was leading conversation with other Scrum Masters to make sure we are unblocking ourselves. So make sure you know what the goal is and you work towards it. Like if your goal is to be a PM, get into roles that align closer to being a PM. I know they're not going to be exact simulation of the company job that you're going to take, but they give you skills that are very, very important to clear the interviews and even make a mark in the company.
Thank you so much for answering that, Mansi. Really helpful to know that. Okay. Moving on, anyone wants to speak up now?
This is exactly when you leverage that networking part
Yeah.
that Mansi was talking about.
Yeah, I had a quick question. So I'm very interested in like project management, and so I recently completed like a disciplined agile Scrum Master like certification with the Project Management Institute, and doing like the associate project management certification stuff. Like how like valuable is that on my resume for kind of like getting me into that first round of interviews? And like are there any other kind of things like that I can do to kind of put on my resume to be like, hey, I know what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm. I think they're very important, especially when you do not have any work experience. So if you've never worked in industry in any tech role, you might not be able to showcase those skills apart from these certifications. So I do believe having those certification is going to bump you up in the recruiters list. But apart from that, I would also suggest trying to find out a way within your college curriculum where you can actually work on that skill and highlight that in your resume. Because certification and stuff gives you knowledge, but that being part of a project and running it as a project manager is going to give you the skills that will help you clear the interview. So try and do that. I know it's sometimes tough. You might have to take extra work, or you can work. I know a lot of people, what they do is they join these upcoming startup as like part-time job, and that's where they gain these skills. So that's something that you can explore to gain that skill and highlight that in your resume. That's also going to get you up in the queue that they have.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we have another question by Bailey. Is there a difference between program and project management? I know they are different from product management.
Oh, those three roles are completely different from each other. But then again, they have a different definition in a different company. So for example, in Microsoft, you will not find a product manager role. There's only one role, program manager. And then you have a project manager, but that's in a different unit, the services unit of Microsoft. So how do those two roles differentiate? Let me give you a little bit insight into that. So product manager is more on understanding the business, what the customer needs are, and building a plan and vision for the product. Program management is a bridge between what product manager is thinking and what the software engineers are doing, and making sure if there are multiple teams involved in building that one product. Like for example, I'll give you Facebook for Android. That's one product that we have, and we definitely have 100+ teams working on it, right? So we need TPMs to make sure that they're communicating with each other and not overwriting the overall vision of the product, and not creating conflicting user experiences. So like TPM is there to make sure of that. And then we have project managers that are focused more on the execution side of the project. Like we have this deadline, making sure everyone is on track. And then the budgeting and all of that stuff is being handled by the project manager. Sometimes in companies, you'll see one person doing all the three roles, and that's very common in Facebook. In Facebook, as a TPM, I'm sometimes also being a product manager, I'm sometimes being a project manager, and I'm also a program manager. So like each company has its own definition. You need to reach out to the actual employees to understand how that company understands that role. But essentially, yeah, three of them are very different, but like in a company, they might like that, those differences might not matter. Facebook does not differentiate that much. That's what I've learned so far. But maybe Google does. I do not have that many contacts to give you that much insight. But if you go and reach out to some associate product manager or product manager, they might give you a better insight on how their role is different from project and PM program manager roles.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. So we have another question in the chat, and Rachel asked, did you apply with a portfolio, and if so, what did it look like?
For me, I did not apply with the portfolio because I was applying for PM roles at that time. They did not really need a portfolio, but if I was supposed to apply for software engineering roles, definitely my portfolio would be a GitHub profile that I have with all the codes and like for assignments and projects that I was doing. And for designers, I know this for a fact because I work with a lot of designers in Facebook. You definitely need a portfolio to get bumped up in the queue. And the better and the more user-friendly your portfolio website is, the better impact it creates on the recruiting or hiring manager within the company. So you definitely need portfolio for certain roles, but not for every role.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question. How to go about developing soft skills?
So this is, I developed my soft skills by being part of all these organization, and I'm still part of one, IEEE. What I learned from being part of these organization is like sometimes you need to organize events like these, like Paramita, Fatima, and Yivi are doing right now. You need to organize these events. You learn so many skills by just doing one event. Like they had to reach out, they had to come up with a way how to collect questions, collect attendees, publicize, and like how to collaborate between themselves. So like while being part of just one committee, like I wouldn't say be part of like hundreds of societies that are out there in your college. Be part of one, be dedicated to one, and make sure you are putting effort in that society or that community, because that's gonna give you a lot of soft skills. Like that's the best way to learn soft skills with minimum investment. So yeah.
Thank you. And if anyone still have any questions.
Hi, Mansi. Um, yeah, first of all, thank you for doing this. This has been so informative so far. I had a question. I am really interested in product management roles, and I graduate in May, but I don't really have any work experience. So, how do you think I should, portray that on my resume? Like, how should I put across my leadership skills without work experience?
So leadership skills, again, it goes back to being part of a college society or community. Like if you, for me, I was in IEEE and I'm still am. I lead a lot of organizations within IEEE. For example, I'm chair this year for one of the conferences that we organize in Las Vegas. I'm vice chair for one of the societies, computer societies within IEEE. So like if you have those roles in volunteer positions, you can show leadership as like being part of these leadership roles in these communities. Another thing that you can think about here is like instead of applying for straight up product manager roles, I know there are a lot of companies that have this beginner PM role. So like Facebook has rotational PM program where you can join and they'll rotate you for 1.5 year, 6 months in 3 different projects, and then you become a full PM. So that's one thing, and I know there's a similar thing in Google called Associate Product Manager. Maybe work like instead of applying for straight up PM, try applying for these roles. But the goal behind that is if you do not have experience, these rotational roles will give you the skill and the all the tools needed to succeed once you are a PM. So that's like a good way as well for you to start in this role.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We can go back to some of the questions that we collected before the.
We have another question by Colleen, so let's ask that first. So she says, thanks, Mansi, for all your insights. Facebook is a huge company. Do you feel like you have a good grasp of the overall company environment? And do you have interactions with other teams that are not on the technical side? Or does it feel like you're working in your own niche?
Okay. I do work with a lot of non-technical teams. They're not teams per se, but they are like more like partners. Yeah, I do work with. Let me give you an example. I sometimes work with legal team. I sometimes work with operational teams. I sometimes work with, let me see, business teams, depending on the project or program that I'm running. And then and like Facebook is one of the companies which gives you an option to whether you want to go breadth, like do you want to spread out or do you want to be focused on one thing. I am more of a breadth kind of a person, so I work on projects that work across teams, and that's why I work with non-tech teams and tech teams and build collaborations between them. Whereas I know I have a mentor who works on really focused project in one domain. So he works in languages and runtime and compilers. So he's very, very focused and technically focused on how compilers work, how we can improve it, how can we improve efficiency. And he has a really, really good technical grasp in it. So like you have an option in Facebook at least to whether you want to go depth wise, like do you want to invest in one area, or do you want to look broadly at the whole organization and work on key projects that are common across these teams. So yeah.
Awesome. Eve, do you want to take up
Yeah.
the questions?
Yeah, okay. So we have a question. What advice can you give on imposter syndromes?
Imposter syndrome. It's a very, very common scenario or thing that you go through when you're working in these companies. And I go through it every now and then, I wouldn't lie. The only way I think to get over, and this might not apply to you, like, let me be very clear, every person is built different. Their way of coping and going through these emotions and the symptoms that you get as part of imposter syndrome are very different, and responses are also going to be different. But like what I do is like I immerse myself with the thing that is giving me that imposter syndrome feeling. So like I was working on this really, really huge company critical time bound project. Like we had just 2.5 months to do a lot of work. And that was giving me a lot of imposter syndrome because it had been just 3 months into the company and I was running this really high priority critical project. What I did at that time was I immersed myself into that project. And what do I mean by immersing myself? I read a lot of stuff that was related to it, tech, non-tech, what's happening, what is impacting, did a lot of research. And that helped me ease a little into the role and get over my imposter syndrome. I believe a lot of imposter syndrome comes from us feeling we do not have the knowledge or skill to be able to do stuff. And the only way that I was able to get over it is do research, get those knowledge, get those skills, reach out to your mentors. Like Facebook has a really amazing mentor culture. I had 2 mentors. I reached out to them and I asked, hey, I'm running this big project and this is really company critical. Give me tips, give me tricks. And all those things and all the tips and tricks that they told me, I documented them, I worked on it. Like within a week or two, I was over it. Like the only way to fight imposter syndrome is to stand your ground and fight it. Like there's no other way that you're going to get over it. And and this is something that you're going to face every now and then. Just be like cognizant about it. Like it's fine, it's going to happen. I'm used to it. Like whenever a big project comes my way, I always go through this emotion of feeling imposter syndrome and then feeling really, really happy and then feeling sad that it's over. So like it's a roller coaster ride every time when I'm working on a project. So yeah. Definitely this worked for me, might be different for you, but like do invest and see what options you have that you can leverage and tap into those. And maybe network like with your friends. Maybe that is a better way for you to cope with imposter syndrome. So yeah, try all these different tricks, and after 1 or 2 tries, you're gonna find out what works best for you.
That was
Wow.
a great
Yeah.
answer, Mansi. Yeah. I think everybody relates to imposter syndrome and has faced it. So yeah, that was really motivational to hear from you. Um, you talked a little bit about mentorship. So we had a question about it. And we'd like for you to elaborate a little bit more about how mentorship did play a role during your career switch.
So mentorship while career switch, I did not have mentors at that time, I'll be really honest. I got mentors, really good mentors, when I started interning in Facebook. So I was an intern, I got a full-time offer and I joined full-time last year. So when I was interning, I made 2 really good mentors that I'm still in contact with, and they made sure that I was gaining skills even before I joined the company. They would set up calls with me, and I'll set up a call and I'll be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. Is there something else that I should invest in? And they'll tell me, okay, go and look at this article, go and look at this learning course. And like they'll give me all the details that they could within the NDA contract that was allowed. And that's how I built a relationship with them. And then when I joined Facebook, and so like imagine joining a new company in a completely new city, working from home, setting up your home, and like joining a new company where you're just talking everyone virtually. So it can be really, really overwhelming, and you'll feel alone and all of that, because you do not have that connection with your teammates and you do not know anyone else. And especially if the team, like I was supposed to go back to the same team. I did go back to the same team, but everyone had moved on. So basically I was back in a completely new team, right? So I had to start the whole process again of building the network, building the connections, and like having a support system there on the TPM side, and also building a good relationship with the engineering manager that I'm going to support. So at that time, my mentors played a really, really key role. Like they gave me really, really good ways to like work on how to build those connections, how to reach out to EMs, what's the right way to communicate, how do you make sure the project is on time, like the skills and the things that I needed. Like I would go to my mentors and be like, I do not understand anything, help me. And they'll be like, tell me what's going on. So they're really, really open, and they're always ready to help you as long as you go and voice them. Like you cannot have a mentor-mentee relationship if you're not going to voice your questions to them or your concerns. They cannot mind read you. And always have a mentorship relationship with a goal in mind. Like I had my mentorship relationship with two mentors last half, like when I joined, with the focus of them helping me onboard. So I would ask everything related to onboarding, how to run a program, and all of that. Now I have a different set of mentors. Like that does not mean I'm not talking to my previous mentors, and but like the new set of mentors are more focused on how to run a program that is stretched across multiple teams, how to run that. That's pretty different from how running a single program is. So like you will have different mentorship relationships with different mentors, but make sure you have a network there where you can tap into for that mentorship. That's why networking is really, really key. And you need to network not only in your college, like there are going to be mentors around you that are going to help you more on like their perspective of things and all of that. Like I have friends that are working in different teams. They're TPMs just like me, joined like me, but their way of working is, and their perspective is sometimes so different and unique. And it gives me a new insight into the way that I can run my program. So like having that network is also as important as having a mentorship network. So have both the networks there and be ready to tap in with a very, very clear goal. You need to have a goal for any mentor-mentee relationship, otherwise it doesn't work.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have time for our last question, and it's about how important is the cover letter in our application process, and any tips on how we can write a good cover letter?
Cover letter, it depends on company to company. I'll be really frank. Big companies, FANG, at least for software engineering roles, they do not care about cover letter. All they care about is whether you've done projects. Like when they're looking the first round of clearance, they just focus on your resume and whether you have the tech skills to be ready for the interview round or not. For other roles, which are very, very rare, like so in Facebook, we consider designer and PM roles as rare entities. So they will go and work when there is a need for it, but they're not there in every project. So for such roles, they also want to know a little bit more about you, a more insight into the way you think, the way you want to grow in career, and all that thing can be kind of concised and put up in a cover letter. So when you're applying for these niche roles, like which have lower number, like software engineering definitely do not need it, but if you're applying for designer, project PM, all of these roles, definitely invest in a cover letter where, and the goal of your cover letter should be how does your career path aligns with the company's goal. Like I said, that's the best way you can highlight and show your brand. Like that's why you need to hire me. My goal completely aligns with what your mantra is, and like I would definitely love to be part of it. That shows your passion towards the job and their company, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for passionate technically skilled people to join the company. So like skills you can showcase in your resume, the passion you can showcase in your cover letter. So that would be my advice for writing a cover letter.
Thank you so much. I think that would be all the time we have today. And thank you so much for this amazing presentation. And we definitely learned so much from it. And if everyone can give us feedback before you head out, that would be amazing. And the link is sent in the chat. So yeah, thanks for everyone for coming today.
Thank you so much, Mansi, for taking out the time. I know you've been in and out of meetings, so thanks a lot for taking out that time and helping the community. Thanks a lot.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. This was really amazing talking to everyone here and like answering questions. Like those were some really good questions and I completely understand where they're coming from. So yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mansi. This was really inspiring to know about your stories and how you navigated through your career. And I hope everybody really gained a lot from it. So thanks a lot. And thank you everyone for being here, joining us today. Please, please, please give us feedback because that helps us make our events better every time. So yeah, thank you so much again.
Bye.
Okay.
See you in our next event.
Bye.